Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio NBA Closing Time Show, Monday, January 11th. Ian Cameron, Skee Prophet, Conor Mack with you, ready to break down the NBA card for this Monday. We were just talking off air that the NBA usually has a lighter schedule of games when it's the Monday of the national championship game in college football. That ain't the case tonight. It is a full schedule, a full slate of games here on the NBA card. We've got, we had 8 games scheduled. One has been postponed, that being the Pelicans and the Mavericks, but everything else is on for tonight. So 7 games altogether. Let's get to it, starting at the top of the rotation, guys. As always, in the NBA tonight, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland opened a 1.5-point home favorite here, 2.5 now with Memphis on the road, 206.5 the total in this game. Total opened 210.5, and I saw this yesterday, and I'm like, how is the total that high in this game with two offensive teams that I quite frankly don't trust? We know Cleveland, in terms of their offensive capabilities, a lot of the guys that stir the drink for them offensively are not in tonight. And the injury situations and absences for them are significant. Kevin Love hasn't played yet this year, but in addition to that, you've got Darius Garland still out. Colin Sexton's been pretty much a game-time decision for the last several games for the Cavaliers. There's a chance he may not be able to go tonight in this game. He's questionable as of right now with that ankle injury for this game against Memphis. Dante Exum has been ruled out. So it's been a Cleveland team that you struggle to figure out where are the points, where's the shooting and the offensive capability going to come from in this game from them tonight. On the flip side, you got the Grizzlies, who have been a little bit scattershot offensively. I know Skee has mentioned in the past how Memphis, a team that until they get Jaren Jackson back, they're not a team that he's regularly looking to trust in terms of from a betting standpoint. Of course, John Morant remains out for this team. I think Cleveland's injury situation is significant, so I get the push from the betting markets to Memphis a little bit to an extent. But now that with the Grizzlies on the road laying 2.5, I'm not sure I'd want to get in on the Memphis side at this current number. I firmly agree with the underplay in this game, down to 206.5. That would be my strongest stance on this game, but maybe scale back on. I think there's maybe still a little bit of value. I think that this game probably will barely get into the 200s if it does. So I still think there's a little value to play under the total, but again, the 4-point move, maybe just scale back if you're going to bet the under now if you missed the best of the number. But under is definitely the lean for me with Cavaliers and Grizzlies tonight. Skee, we'll start with you with this one, Memphis and Cleveland.
Yeah, this is one, if you got in early on the total, it's a good one because neither team is playing fast and both offenses are worst and second worst over the past few games, 5 games or so. And the defense, maybe the defense, I'll just say I trust both defenses more than I trust the offense in these games. So I agree with the under. And I know I say that I don't necessarily want to look at Memphis until they get those guys back. But it's a spot where I think you would have to look at Memphis or pass because the Cavs have been playing a lot of games lately. First, Memphis, they're coming off 3 days rest. And I believe this is the Cavs' fifth game in 8 nights. And they already have a thin roster while they've been playing all of these games. We're not sure if Colin Sexton will go. He's questionable. And I like to fade teams coming off the 4-game road trip and back at home. And teams in that situation that were a dog, they've only won 6 out of the last 27 games. So it'll be Memphis for me in this one, and I agree with the under.
All right, Memphis and under as well for Skee Prophet. Conor, what you saying here with this one, Grizzlies and Cavs?
I'm kind of with both you guys. The number's been a little bit lost. I still think there's a little bit of value. 206 is getting low. It's starting to get really low. You guys nailed it with Sexton being a game time decision. Cavs won this one a couple days ago, right? By 4. So I think Memphis, but I don't want to lay points with Memphis. I just don't want to. I don't want to lay 2.5 here. Sorry, my computer's messing up. Right on cue.
I've been there. That's all right. I've had that happen before when I'm doing shows, and I'm ready to throw it out the window. Yeah. But continue.
Yeah. So Memphis here, I got to take them, like Skee said, with Cleveland coming home, even as a dog getting 2 points. These teams coming home off a huge road trip. That first game, that's been a big key especially over the last probably like 5 years in my handicapping, those long road trips, the first game back, teams just don't play well. As Skee was saying. So for me, it'd be small. I like the under a bit, but I think the value's lost. Like Ian mentioned, there's a little bit left, I think, but at 206 we're getting low. And I only go Memphis, and I just don't love that laying 2.5. So it's kind of it's a pass that way as well.
All right, pass for Conor. We move on now to the next one, Phoenix, Washington. We've got the Suns 5.5-point favorites on the road here, 231.5 the total. You can pretty look, if you like these Washington games over the total, you're at the point now where we've seen enough data and we've seen enough betting market movement in these Washington games to know that if you like the over, bet it right away, because you know the over is going to take money in these Washington games. And sure enough, it has once again with this Suns-Wizards game. The Suns continuing on their Eastern road trip, 7-3 start to the season, 4-2 straight up and against the spread on the road this year for the Suns. Meanwhile, you've got this Washington Wizards team coming into this game 2-8 straight up. How about at home? They've been dreadful. 0-5 straight up, 1-4 against the spread here on their home court. You look at this Phoenix Suns team. They're trying, I think, to put I think that if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to take a look here at the upcoming schedules. But for the Phoenix Suns, I believe after this game, they're headed back home. Yes, they are. Going back home to play Atlanta. So this is the end of this mini little 3-game road trip. They dropped the first game of this road trip, the Phoenix Suns against Detroit in overtime. They bounced back to beat a solid Pacers team over the weekend. I think there's some incentive for the Suns to get home with a 2-1 road trip, finish the road trip on a winning note, a winning record. And they've certainly, I think, got the team that's beatable to do that. A team that's not playing a lick of defense, a team that's without Russell Westbrook, who, to be honest with you, hasn't been the best Brook this season for Washington when I've seen him play. Turning the ball over is still an issue for him. He's just, his feet are moving faster than his brain sometimes on the basketball court. That's the problem Westbrook runs into at times, but he's out. This defense that's not giving you any resistance at all, not only not defending and guarding the perimeter, but interior-wise as well. There's been no rim protection, no rim resistance. They've certainly had some injury issues there to worry about as well. Just not a team that's really defending much at a high level. I mean, Bradley Beal's quote after the game the other night said it all. I mean, that's one of the best quotes I've heard. He says, we couldn't guard a parked car right now, our defense here with this Washington team. I think that's one of the better, and he's right. He's honest. He's being honest, and he's correct. They can't defend or guard a parked car right now, this Washington team. Obviously, a big difference in these two teams at that end of the floor. I think a reasonable price, guys, to back the better team with an incentive to finish the road trip 2-1 before going back to the desert instead of 1-2. There's a big difference there. So give me Phoenix here. I'll lay the 5.5. I think the price is reasonable enough to back the Suns in this one. Skee, how about you? What's your thoughts here? Phoenix, Washington.
Well, the only thing I can think, I mean, I know Scott Brooks is on the hot seat. Maybe his team will step up and play for him. I know some people over there like Scott Brooks. But as far as the total first, Phoenix has been a team that plays at a slower pace. And on the road, they've been playing towards unders. We know Washington always wants to run up and down. But I don't know. I just feel like if whoever's going to win the game or whoever you expect to win the game, that's who's going to control the pace. So if I like the Suns, I'd probably lean towards less points. It's always hard in the Wizards games, though. But if I'm making a play in this one, I probably would pick Phoenix on the first half. They've been good in the first half in general, 8-2 on the year, but on the road, they're 5-1. And it's a tough one. I don't really love this game. I just think Phoenix is the much better team. And I like the number you can get on the first half.
Yeah, all right, lean. Not a bet, but a lean for a Skee to the Suns here in the first half against the Wizards. Conor, what's your thoughts here? Suns, Wizards.
I'm with you guys. The Suns are the better team here. I think they want to get this win and head back home. Westbrook's out. Bryant's out. The Wizards are a tricky team. They just can't play any defense, as Beal said. They're just horrible. I can't back them. And the other night I took the over as my best bet, and that game went under. That Celtics game. But Skee's right. Whoever dictates the pace will keep this game. If the Suns keep it at their pace, this could go under, but you can't trusting that in a Wizards game is just crazy. I like the Suns a little bit. I like both your guys. I think first half's a solid play. I think the full game, I think it's pretty good at 5.5. I'm making a small play on the Suns, -5.5 here. And like I said, the total, I could see it. I don't think the Suns want to go, but they might it just could get that way. When you just don't play defense, you got to score easy buckets, right? If you're the Suns. But I think they want to dictate the pace and keep it low. So no real feel on that total to get there at 231.
See, the reason I think there's value on Phoenix and why I think they're laying a reasonable number here is because the betting markets aren't pricing them in that upper echelon West category yet. They're not like a Lakers or a Clippers or Nuggets or Dallas or any one of those teams. They're not quite power rating Phoenix at that level. I think they're maybe not there. They're closing in on that level with everything. The eye test tells me the Suns are a legitimate team right now from what I've seen. And for Washington, you mentioned the Thomas Bryant injury. He's obviously done for the season. Who the hell's going to guard DeAndre Ayton tonight from this Washington team?
Lopez, I guess, right? That's who's coming. Robin Lopez? That's all they got. I mean, right?
Give it your all, my friend. We'll see if it's
that's what I know. Yeah, I mean, that's the only guy they got.
Yeah. On paper, that's a tough matchup for him against Ayton. So I think Phoenix, a chance to go 2-1 on this road trip. You got to have incentive sometimes. Sometimes these bad teams, you're a little bit flat when you play them. I don't think Phoenix will be. And if they're not, I think they could cover this number. And again, because they're not priced like a Lakers or other teams in the West who would be laying probably 9 or 9.5 against Washington in this spot, one of those teams.
Yeah.
Instead, you're only laying like 5.5 here with Phoenix. So that's why I think there's a little value. Milwaukee and Orlando, guys, we got the Bucks 10-point favorites on the road. This has been bet up. Milwaukee opened 7.5-point favorites here, 226 the total in this one. Look, we know Orlando is just completely and utterly decimated. I mean, anyone that's been paying attention knows that. And they've certainly had tons of issues. They got just eviscerated by Houston on Friday. Wasn't much better for them. The next game, we know they've had key cogs out. It's not really gotten a whole lot better for them. They've still got Fournier out. Michael Carter-Williams is out. Markelle Fultz, of course, out for the season. Does look like Aaron Gordon is on the floor and playing tonight for Orlando. So at least a little bit of good news for them from an injury standpoint. But now you got to play, obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks, a tall order indeed. I can understand some of the betting market support here for Milwaukee. Now it's just a question of, 7.5's one thing. Can you lay 10 with Milwaukee? I'd probably still lean in that direction. It's just a question of, line value at this point and if the best of the numbers gotten away. But for me, I decided, with the guys out for that first game, maybe they'll step up, and Houston was just too much for them. In that moment, I saw, what, we're not touching an Orlando side from a bet-on standpoint, at least anytime soon. So for me, this is going to be a lean to Milwaukee, maybe first half, maybe full game, if anything, in this game. Skee, what do you think here? Orlando hosting Milwaukee.
I do still like Milwaukee at the 10. This Orlando team, and Ennis was just rolled out too a second ago, like literally while you were talking. But this Milwaukee team is Orlando team is too banged up. I don't know where to expect the points to come from. And the Bucks, what else I'll say about the Orlando team is they're a team that you want them versus lesser competition. You don't want them versus teams that are 55% or more. You can go back to last season with that. But this year, they're 2-4 against the spread. And I have a stat, a rested Magic team as a home dog versus those 55% win teams or greater. Going back to 2019, April 2019, they're 0-11-1 against the spread. So fade the Bucks. Fade the Magic against these good teams. And when the Bucks win, they win big. They have a point differential of 13.6. So this is a game where I would expect them to run away with it. I like them first half and for the game.
All right. Don't mind the line move, says Skee Prophet. Don't mind it. Keep on going. Keep on plugging forward with the Milwaukee Bucks here. And you're right, James Ennis, you're right, because it's showing up on my injury or I've got my depth charts and screens right in front of me, and they got out questionable beside every player on this screen that I've got up in front of me when we do these shows. And James Ennis still looks like it was planning to play. So you're right about it probably just being announced now that he's out for the Orlando Magic, and that's going to make things even more difficult. You look at Orlando, and the last two games, they lose by 14 at Dallas, And then you get eviscerated, like I said, by 42 against Houston. So you lose both of those games by 14 plus. Milwaukee's right on par, if not better, than Dallas and Houston. So this could be a long night here, once again, for the shorthanded Orlando Magic. Connor, what do you think?
I'm with you guys. I just can't see where the points are coming from. As much like right now, I want to take the Magic. And then like Skee throughout that stat, I see I can't do it. I want to take the home dog in 10 points like no other in this spot. And when you just look every which way, I can't get there. I can't see the points with all these guys out. I mean, I know Gordon, he's in, but that's about it. There's too many points missing from this team. It's got to be Bucks, and I just don't like laying it. I'm with you guys. I lean it. Bucks, I'm not going to bet it, but I don't think so. But I definitely lean with the Bucks here. First half, full game. I think they can win pretty easily in this one.
Yeah, it's tough with these injury-riddled basketball teams. I want to mention something about Orlando as well that I think is worth mentioning right now. They are This is pace numbers that you want to keep an eye on. They're averaging 103 possessions per game this year, Orlando. The last 3 games, and that's when these injuries started to mount for them. The last 3 games, their possessions per game is 97, and then the last game was 98. Yep. Steve Clifford saying, you know what? Slow down, guys. Bleed the shot clock. We're not going up and down the floor with anybody right now with all of these guys out of the lineup for our team. We've got to just be disciplined. We've got to just limit the number of possessions in these games to gives ourselves a puncher's chance at least to try to hang in these games. So with that in mind, see on this total here, 226, and people are betting this thing up, 224.5 up to 226. I don't agree with that move. I think, and Milwaukee, we know they can be if they have their shooting legs going with the pace they play at. I get it. They can make these totals look small sometimes, but Orlando's going to grind this pace down to a halt tonight because they've been doing it now the last couple of games against Dallas and Houston, just trying to stay mildly competitive in these games with all the injuries. And even going back to that, the Cleveland game, and they're on an overall 5-0-1 to the under run, Orlando, in their last 6 games. You look at these numbers, 197, 186, 199. You had 222 against Houston, but again, Houston exploded for 132, and you still only got to 222 and a push on the total. And then you got way below the total against Dallas, 210 points in that game. So where is the 226 going to come from in this game? I'm not sure. I lean under. I don't agree with this total move going up.
I agree with you. And the same stat I said for the Magic 0-11-1, the under is 9-3. The average total was 215.4 and still went under by 11 points per game. It's tough to see where points are coming from the Magic side. I like the under as well.
Yeah, I'm probably betting that, especially if it keeps climbing. New York and Charlotte, we've got Charlotte -5, 212 the total in this one. This is a tricky one because Charlotte laying points, I don't know if I love doing that, but New York's on the back-to-back. And if I actually go back long-term and look, the Knicks on the second night of back-to-back hasn't been a good point spread situation for them. So it's a real tricky game. New York's now lost a couple in a row. Remember, everybody's singing the praises of this Knicks team. Look at this hardworking, defensive-minded Knicks team, the way they're going. And now since everybody's starting to really get all pumped up and excited, they lose back-to-back games, the Knicks, predictably, I guess you could say, against OKC and then over the weekend against the Denver Nuggets as well. So we'll see if Tom Thibodeau's Knicks team can bounce back here in this one. This is a game I don't have a strong opinion on. It's still even with the back-to-back in play for the Knicks, I'd probably still rather take the points with the dog than lay anything with Charlotte. I know Charlotte's won 3 in a row. They've played some better basketball, but I'm still not ready to trust this team laying a moderate number as chalk. So for me, it would be a small lean here to the Knicks. Skee, what's your thoughts on this one, Knicks and Hornets?
Yeah, I'm not going to go too in depth, but I don't want to be laying with the Hornets. They're 0-3 as a favorite so far this year, and Knicks off a couple of bad losses. Maybe we'll see if they're for real or not. If they bounce back and look like a good team, like a good team should, and then they'll keep it close, if not win this game. So I will be grabbing the points with the Knicks if I'm playing this one. And also, one more thing, Knicks 4-1 to the under on the road, Charlotte 4-0 to the under at home. So maybe less points.
I'm not betting a New York game over the total right now. That's for sure.
Me either.
And I was upset. I was looking at Denver, New York under the total last night. I said I didn't pull the trigger. I had a good day still, but that's one I left on the board. I was leaning that way and didn't pull the trigger because I had the New York Oklahoma City game under the total the previous game, and that was easy. That game didn't even come to the 200s when it was all said and done. So New York is a dead nuts under team right now. I know Charlotte's defense is a little flighty. They can shoot the ball, and they're not quite that type of team, but New York might be able to drag them into a lower scoring game. What's your thoughts, Connor, here, New York versus Charlotte?
I'm with you guys on the total there. Yeah, I'm not playing the Knicks over anytime soon, and it's just they've been cashing. Even here at 212, I like the under here. The Hornets have scored a little bit. They've been played well the last few games. Ball's played well. I look at New York. I still think they're missing too much right here. These last few games with Gibson, Bullock, Toppin, they're all out. And Julius Randle's had to carry the load, and he's played great. I mean, he's balling. He's playing really well. So I lean the Knicks because I don't want to lay the points with the Hornets, but I see too much missing with the Knicks. I just don't love it. They'd be my lean getting the points here at +5, but I definitely like that under, though. I'll be playing that under.
Yeah, definitely. That's the concern. Second night of back-to-back, a couple of injuries. Now, I know they're still going to have Alfred Payton, R.J. Barrett. Randall looks like he's going to go tonight, but Toppin's out, Reggie Bullock's out, Alec Burks is out. So there's still some guys that they're going to miss tonight, the New York Knicks, but I would still rather take points with them than take Charlotte laying anything right now. They have to prove to me they can step up as favorites. To Skee's point, Charlotte 0 for this year, ATS, when laying points. Next up, we've got Philadelphia and Atlanta. Atlanta 6-point home favorites, 220.5 the total. Like Philadelphia is another of these teams, combo of injuries, combo of COVID-19. It's the whole gamut right now for the 76ers. Look at the people that are going to be out of this lineup tonight for Doc Rivers' team. It's remarkable. And unfortunately, they're one of those teams that have just been besieged by it, along with a couple of other teams recently here in the NBA that have had these COVID-19 issues creep up. But Philadelphia, definitely one of those teams. Ben Simmons is the one guy that's out because of an actual injury. All right. His is actually injury related. But you look at everybody else, Seth Curry, Shake Milton, Tobias Harris, Matthias Thybulle. All of these guys are out because of COVID-19 protocols. And Seth Curry is the one that actually tested positive for COVID-19. So this is a short-handed team. Looks like Joel Embiid is going to be in tonight for the Sixers, which is good to see. So you're going to need Danny Green to play well. You need something out of Mike Scott, who's going to get a lot of minutes with Harris out. Tyrese Maxey is going to see a lot of playing time. And, of course, he's just a rookie out of Kentucky. So let's see what he ends up doing here tonight for Philadelphia with an increased amount of responsibility and minutes on the basketball court. Going to get a lot more floor time tonight in this game. See if he can make the most of it. So I get the Philly issues. That's clearly the reason. They're 6.5 point dogs in this game. But are we ready to lay 6 with Atlanta? I'm not. I can say that right now. The Atlanta Hawks, we know what they've been like. They've been pretty good in the bigger underdog role. They've stepped up against teams like Brooklyn, and they've been able to cover numbers and even win games in that kind of point spread role. But then you flip it around and you've got them in the favorite role, and it's not quite the same for Atlanta. You look at them 0-4, straight up and against the spread their last 4 games, suddenly cooling off after a pretty good start. Lost to Cleveland, lost to New York, lost to Charlotte, and back-to-back games, losing to Charlotte. And losing to them, I think playing even worse in the second game against Charlotte when they had already lost the first of the back-to-back against Charlotte was particularly alarming here for the Atlanta Hawks. Their offense isn't really clicking as of late, too. They're not shooting the ball as well. Only 34-91 in the loss to Charlotte from the floor in that game. They're also, we talk about a team that this guy just has had consistent injury issues, and here we go again with Bogdan Bogdanovic here for Atlanta. Looks like with the knee injury again. That continues to be a recurring theme with him. Injuries. Looks like Trae Young is playing through a wrist injury as well. Expected to play, but again, maybe hampering him just a little bit. So it's a game where I don't know if I want Philly, but I can tell you right now for sure, I'm not really all that enthused about laying 6 points with the Atlanta Hawks right now, even against a depleted Philly team. So this is a game I'm going to end up totally staying out of, and it's a pass for me. Skee, what's your thoughts here with the Sixers and Hawks?
Too many injuries. It's not a game that I really want to get involved with. A lot of scoring out for Philadelphia. a lot of scoring out for the other side as well. I mean, Bogdanovich, I think, just fractured his knee, and it's tough. Too many people game time decisions. The only way I could look at this game would be less points. If anybody gets rolled out, you probably get a little extra value on it. But Philly under 3-1 on the road, under 3-1 at home for Atlanta. It's tough with all the injuries. I would lean under if anything on this game. I don't want to back Atlanta laying 6 points for sure, and that's the only way I can look.
All right, so just a game to stay away for sure on this one. All right, Connor, what's your thoughts here, Philly and Atlanta?
I lean the under as well. All these injuries, all of a sudden the Hawks can't score. These games have been, barely can't get to 100. You named all those guys out. All these injuries they're dealing with. Rondo's already out. Gallinari, Bogdanovich, they're all out regular. So this is a tough one. The Hawks have beat the Sixers at home. They've played them well. Not in Philly, but at home. They've taken care of them the last few years. They played them really well. I like that a lot. And all you got in the Sixers is Embiid and a bunch of no names. I mean, they're just carrying 7-8 guys tonight. I mean, and the guys on the bench, normally they're not on an NBA roster. So this one's tough. I'd lay it maybe with the Hawks, but I'm going to pass on this game. That'd be my only look, is to lay it with Atlanta, but I just don't love it. And I think the under might be in play with all these players out. This could be more of a grinder and low scoring game. I'd lean towards the under.
Yeah, to me, actually, I'd play Philly before I play Atlanta, to be honest with you. You can talk about four straight straight up and ATS losses for Atlanta. When a team's struggling against the number like that repeatedly, game in and game out, I want them to cover first before I step in and back them. And that's kind of the case we've got here with Atlanta. But that's just a lean to Philly. I won't be getting anywhere near that game. The next game up, Toronto Raptors, Portland Trail Blazers. Portland 4.5, 5-point favorites here at, I keep wanting to call it the Rose Garden. I miss that name, the Rose Garden. That's what I think of when I think Portland home court. It's Moda Center. What the hell is that? But nevertheless, 4.5, 5 here with Portland, 230.5 the total in this game. Toronto Raptors, it's just, some games the offense is there, some games it's not. Some games the defense is there, some games it's not. Sometimes they play good at the start of the game, and then they play poorly at the end of the game. And then there's times where they actually play poorly at the start of the game, play better at the end of the game, like they did last night against Golden State. But unfortunately, you can't build yourself a 17-point deficit, and expect to come back in a game like that. And the Raptors made a valiant effort. You give them credit for that, but you can't just dig yourself that big of a hole and expect to win. And they lose in crippling fashion. They expend and that's the problem. You expend all that energy and effort to come back, only to fall short. Damian Lee gets the 2 big free throws late in the game to put it away. Bit of a dubious foul call, but nevertheless, can't put yourself in a spot when you're trailing by 17 and expect to win basketball games that way. Kyle Lowry was back after missing the Sacramento game, but it didn't matter. Just a team that's disjointed right now in all areas. Nick Nurse is just tinkering with the lineup, with the rotation every game now, trying to find something that works and he can go with consistently, that he has trust in, that he has faith in consistently, and he's still looking to find that winning formula and that right combination right now. So really, really tough spot here for Toronto. It's the end of a long road trip as well. They've been on the road in the West now for a while. And now they've finished up back-to-back here in Portland. So it's a really, really tricky spot. I don't want the Raptors here. I would be lean to the Blazers here. But again, you're laying points with a team that's very, very shaky defensively. It's been better lately and very impressive, actually, Portland, the last few games. Better on the defensive end. We know they've lit it up at the offensive end. They should with, McCollum and Lillard. And they've got, obviously, tons of offensive weaponry on this team to be able to put up points. And with the Raptors, rather, defensively, nowhere close to what we've seen from them the last couple of years. I think, if anything, a Portland team total to the over makes sense here tonight. Rather than just lay the 4.5, 5, don't worry about what the Raptors do. I think defensively, fatigue sets in. Second night of back-to-backs, really tough, hard-fought loss against Golden State, and that defense might suffer tonight. But rather than worry about what Toronto's offense does against Portland, just take that out of the equation. go with Blazers team total. I think is a good way to go here in this game. In case if you're a little bit leery of laying the points with Portland, which I am here, 4.5, 5. I do think they score. It's a question of what do they do defensively. So if I were to bet this, I'd look at the team total. I would isolate that specifically, Portland team total over the number. By the way, the Raptors, you know what their spread record this year is against winning teams? 0-6 against the spread against winning teams this year. So maybe the Raptors are what they are. They are a team that is in decline and maybe isn't going to get it back anytime soon. Certainly the results so far indicate that. Skee, what do you think here with this one? Late night action, Toronto and Portland.
Well, both teams play at a faster pace, and Toronto's not playing that same defense that we're used to seeing from a Raptors team. And we know we can't trust Portland on the defensive end as well. They're just going to try to outscore everybody. I have to go with an over. Tired legs, if anything, to me means less defense. So I think Portland, like you said, gets what they want. I think Toronto can score as well. I just don't think Portland's defense is that good. They've been playing okay lately, but they put up 135 and 125 their last couple of games. It's not going to take too much from the Toronto side to help push it over. So I'm also looking at the Blazers. The last 10 times that they're coming off a win as a road favorite, they went over, scoring like close to 250 points per game. So I like the over if I'm playing this one at all.
Yeah, that was one of the losses for me yesterday on the NBA card was Toronto over against Golden State, and it fell short. The fourth quarter, it just slowed right down. It was on pace after the first three quarters to maybe get there, but the fourth quarter, it just crawled back. I wouldn't argue with Skee's opinion and premise and the thought process there, though, to look over the total again here tonight with the Raptors and the Blazers. I think Blazers team total over as well, in particular with that. Raptors team struggling defensively, second of back-to-backs. You can see them suffering a bit at the defensive end of the court tonight. Conor, what do you think here? Toronto, Portland.
I like both your guys' looks. I think, Portland team total is good. And I'm with Skee. I think this gets over. Last night, like you said, it was on pace. I think it was just fourth quarter was cold. And, I mean, Steph Curry was 1 for 10 from 3. It was just – there was some cold shooting going around. I think that would have got up and probably near the over.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, ice cold. I think it gets over here. Toronto's such a good defensive team. I think they were first or second last year. Maybe they were second. But the last 3 or 4 years, they've been top 5. And they're just – man, they're in a rough go on the back-to-back here. I don't love trusting Portland. I like the total better. I think they cover this. Portland's tricky, man. They are so big on covering. They look so great sometimes. And over the last 3 or 4 years with Lillard, they can go on little runs, and then they can go right when you think, man, I can start putting money on the Trailblazers. Boom, they'll lose. They'll get you. No defense, all that. So I'm leery about the 5 points with you guys, but I'm definitely I'm on the over here. I know it's at 230, but I think, like Skee said, it won't take much. I think Portland will be in the 120s, high 120s, and I think it won't take much for the Raptors to be there. So I'll take the over even at the high 230.
All right. In some form, all three of us see points in this game with the Raptors and the Blazers. And we wrap it up. The final game on the board here, Indiana and Sacramento. We've got the Pacers here, bet up from 3.5 to 5.5 now. Favorites here on the road. Total in this one, as you would expect with Sacramento, pretty high. 227.5, 228 is the total here in this game. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. I mean, Sacramento, you talk about a team that nobody really can do a better job of seeing a 20-point lead disappear as quickly as Sacramento on Friday night against Toronto. That was hard. That was something to see. I mean, they just barrel out of the gates, hitting every shot, and then looking like they're going to blow the Raptors out of the water. And then sure enough, that game turns around completely. And the Kings end up being the team that gets blown out in that game against Toronto on Friday night. A Sacramento team that is just, I think they're still very, very lacking defensively. That continues to be an issue. Look at these last 3 games for Sacramento. And by the way, they're 0-5 against the number in their last 5 games. So Sacramento's turned into a little bit of that money-burning team that I kind of thought they might be coming into the season. I'm not a big Luke Walton guy. Everybody knows that. I'm not saying anything that's news or breaking news to anybody. I don't think that guy can adjust properly. Defense doesn't seem to get better under his watch as a head coach at any point. Look at these numbers they've given up. Sacramento, 137, 124, 144, 125 allowed in these last 4 games. Not getting any stops, giving up way too many easy looks. I agree with the move. I would look Indiana with these teams that are just struggling against the number. They're on a free fall. And you got to look for when you look at fading Sacramento, you want a bet on situation. You just don't want to say, oh, Sacramento's not playing defense. They're struggling. They're not covering numbers. Let's bet against them. You need that bet on component on the other side of the court. I think you have that with Indiana. Starting a road trip off a disappointing loss the other night that the Indiana Pacers had. I think you're going to get their best game, a step-up effort from them going on the road here, trying to start it with a winning note. So for me, it would be the road favorite here. I don't want anything to do with Sacktown. I lean to the Pacers here, laying the 5.5. Skee, what's your thoughts here, Pacers Kings?
My initial thoughts are to back Indiana because Indiana versus their team that I want to take them against lower competition and not really against the better teams. I'm looking at them when they're rested and they're on the road, just playing one of these less than 45% win teams, pretty much as a favorite. I've had 14-3 against the spread their last 17. So that's the road that they thrive in. At the same time, I don't think Sacramento is that bad. It's just a matter of they're kind of banged up right now. We'll see if Buddy plays. We'll see if Rashawn Holmes plays. If they have both of those guys, I know they haven't really looked that good lately, but I think that they can hang around in this game. So I would be one that I'd look out for injury report. And at the right now, I kind of lean more towards Sacramento, although I did look at Indiana. Indiana does play again tomorrow too. They play Golden State. So maybe if they're up a little bit, they take their foot off the gas.
Yep.
So right now, I lean Sacramento, but I would look for Buddy and Rashawn Holmes if they're playing or not.
Yeah, and by the way, Indiana, off their 2 previous losses that they've had this season, they bounced back the next time and won the very next game. 2-0 straight up, 2-0 ATS off a loss, blew out Cleveland, and then stormed back from – it looked like they were dead and buried against the Pelicans, and they won that game in overtime, and they had lost the previous game. So they've been a good bounce-back team, Indiana. Again, keep an eye on that injury report for Sacramento for sure if you're going to back them here tonight in this game. Conor, what's your thoughts? Indiana, Sacramento.
Yeah, that's why it's keeping me off. Like Skee said, Buddy, the injury, and the Pacers are just a good bounce back team. If this was a few more, I'd be on the Kings. If this was 8, 7.5, 8, I really like them because I think they can hang in here too a bit. And I'd lean towards the over. As Ian was saying, Luke Walton, this defense isn't very good in the Kings. And I don't know. I think they'll be kind of an up and down streaky team all year. You know how they came out of the gate, won 3 or 4, and now they've gotten losing, lackadaisical. I know they've had some injuries with Fox and Buddy. They've been banged up. But I lean towards the over, and I'd like the Kings. It's just too short of a number, and a bounce-back spot with the Pacers I like, so I'm going to stay off the side.
Yeah, I don't know. I would lean Indiana. I don't know if I'll bet it, but I'm certainly leaning that direction. I'm mad I didn't get 3.5. I really would have. I would have been on it for sure. 3.5, 4. Now that it's 5.5, now the betting markets have moved it a good amount. They did blow out Chicago by 19 early in the season on the road. So you talk about comparable teams, Chicago and Sacramento, teams we don't expect to be in the playoffs. Indiana went on the road earlier this season, destroyed Chicago. We've seen since that time, Chicago's gotten a lot better and at least a lot more competitive in recent games. So I think Indiana can still take care of business here tonight against Sacramento. That's going to wrap up the Monday card. We've gotten through all 7 games. Good stuff there. As always, before we wrap up, because we don't have a show, an NBA show Tuesdays, a brief little look ahead to what we've got on tap on Tuesday night. I see Miami, Philadelphia, Utah, Cleveland, Denver, Brooklyn. Those games, of course, injury and COVID issues, so there are no lines posted for those games yet. We do have a line for San Antonio, Oklahoma City, with the Spurs laying 2 on the road against OKC. We've got the Lakers and Rockets meeting up again for a second straight game. Very few books reporting, but I see -6 with the Lakers, 223 the total at Houston at Bet Online. Boston, Chicago has no line right now for tomorrow. And of course, we mentioned Indiana playing back-to-back. They're at Golden State tomorrow night. Golden State 2-point favorites at home at New Oracle, a.k.a. Chase Center in San Francisco, and the total 228 in that game with Pacers and Warriors. So we've got a lot of games off the board, so it's hard to give initial opinions. I know I'd be a little bit scared about the spot for OKC tomorrow. You're returning home off a road trip for that game, hosting the Spurs tomorrow night. It doesn't mean I'm going to be on San Antonio for sure necessarily, but you do have them off the loss against Minnesota. Pretty stunning, actually. I know DeRozan didn't play last night for San Antonio, but no Cat for Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns last night, still able to get the job done, beat the Spurs. So bounce back spot for the Spurs. End of a first game home off the road trip. No, that's a dubious spot for OKC. So maybe San Antonio, but again, that's just an initial gut feel that I've got for that game. We'll have to wait and see where things shake out tomorrow as the games approach. Skee, just briefly, anything for Tuesday that you've got an initial thought or two on?
I lean more towards Golden State than Indiana. Golden State, I like what I've been seeing, how they've been playing. And Indiana will be on the second of back-to-back, so I'll lean towards that way. I probably look more towards playing OKC on the road than at home this year. And the only other game I see with the line is the Lakers game. You know, I don't really have a strong opinion on that, so I'll leave it alone.
There you go. So maybe a look to Golden State tomorrow night for Skee. Just an initial lean for him there with the Warriors against the Pacers. What about you, Conor? Just brief initial thought or two on the Tuesday card.
Yeah, with DeRozan out, says he's going to still be out till the 14th. I'd maybe look at Oklahoma City. They played well again, catching a few points at home. And I like San Antonio. I was on them last night. They just laid an egg in the fourth quarter. They were up like 3 or 4. Lost that. I have nothing until we see who plays tomorrow. I'd like Houston if they're maybe getting 6-7, maybe, to stay in that game. I don't know if they win it. I'm just not a huge Rocket fan, and I laid it with them the 4.5 yesterday, and I took it. I lost. So I thought that'd be maybe a spot. You know, every time I'm just Rockets, me and the Rockets, the bet, just step to the side. I can't do it.
I hear you.
Go ahead.
There's those teams you just don't have a good read on or good beat on, and you bet on them and they lose, and you bet against them and they win. I mean, there's going to be those situations, and there's teams in every sport like that for me. Eventually, at some point, and you're right, that's been definitely a little bit of an issue with the Houston Rockets for you. They've been your kryptonite at times this year when it comes to betting the NBA. All right, there we go. Let's wrap it up with best bets for this Monday edition of NBA Closing Time. Conor, I choose you to start us off and lead us off here. Best bet for this Monday card.
I'll go with I'll go the late night. I'll take the over, and let's see if I can get an over. That's the only really one I like on this card. I'll take the Raptors Blazers over.
All right, there we go. Toronto and for the total right now, and I believe there's still some 230s out there with this one. Let me see. Yeah, 230.5 currently, and that got bet down a little bit actually because it opened 233. So Toronto, Portland over 230.5. Best bet for Conor Mack for this Monday card. Skee, what do you got for us? Best bet.
I like the Grizzlies. Fade teams, like I said, coming off that 4-game road trip back at home, and even more so if they're a dog. So give me the Memphis Grizzlies today.
All right, Memphis Grizzlies -2 is still out there on the Memphis side. So we'll go with that. Memphis -2 at Cleveland for Skee Profit, his best bet. Mine is going to be the Shining Suns from Phoenix. We're going to lay the 5.5 with them against Washington. I think they get the job done. 2-1 road trip, I think, matters to them. They're just a better team, and certainly a much better defensive team. Reasonable number. We'll go Phoenix Suns -5.5 against Washington for my best bet. Honorable mention to Milwaukee, Orlando under the total. I'm getting more and more interested with that bet as well, as that number is now up to 226, 226.5 in some spots. So the under is definitely an honorable mention of that. For me as a good totals look on the card tonight. So there we go. We've got Toronto, Portland over from Conor. We've got Memphis -2 against Cleveland from Skee, and we've got Phoenix -5.5 against Washington as our 3 best bets. And that'll wrap up the show for this Monday. Thanks to everyone in the chat for tuning in. Keep on checking out Pub Sports Radio. Oh, Connor, do you want a word from the sponsor or nothing today? The sponsor day off.
Just get real quick. Go to mybookie.ag. If you haven't, promo code Pub Sports Radio, debit or credit, you get 50% off. Use Bitcoin, you get 100%. So you put 1,000, get 1,000, so it's 2,000 total. Use promo code Pub Sports and go to bulksupplements.com. You get 5 or 10% off your order. Get all the vitamins you need for that. I want to give a shout out to Robert Land for $1 dono. Appreciate it, bro. Anything helps us out. Thanks for the buck. And check us out tonight live, the championship game, Ohio State, Bama. If anyone wants to check out, the guys will be on there live later, as Nick just put in the chat. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Lots of fun. We scream and yell when someone makes a mistake or a bad penalty or bad call by the ref or something. Those are fun shows. The live betting show on Pub Sports Radio for the national championship game, Ohio State, Alabama. Make sure you check that out tonight. For Skee Profit and Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. We'll be back with you on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for our next edition of the NBA Closing Time Show. Enjoy the national championship game. Enjoy the games and good luck on the NBA board. We'll see you again right here on Wednesday for another edition of the NBA Closing Time Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.